So if you're in the Discord, you might know I said June, there's been no Deltarune news. We're not expecting Deltarune until the second half of the year. Let's do Substitute Games Month, where we talk about a couple other games for the 2 episodes. And then, of course, the Nintendo Direct, I jinxed this, and the Nintendo Direct dropped the Chapter 5 trailer. So this was recorded prior to that. We'll talk about what we know about Chapter 5 on the next episode. And so the game itself, Chapter 5, is going to come out on June 24th, Wednesday. That was when our next episode was scheduled to come out. We're going to release that one day early on the 23rd. We're still going to cover the secret other game that we're going to talk about in that next episode. And also at the top, we'll talk about what we know about Chapter 5. And then our first post-Chapter 5 episode will be 1 week after release on July 1st. So look forward to that. We're going to go back to weekly for the foreseeable future as we sort through all the new information we have about Chapter 5. So look forward to that. So let's go back a few days prior to the trailer and talk about Titanium Court, a great game that you can pick up and play in the time before Chapter 5 comes out if you're interested. Music in this episode is from Titanium Court by the director A.P. Thomson. Hello!
Hello!
Whoa,
My pod!
I just knocked over. Sorry, I just knocked over a glass thing. It's fine.
Oh, no.
It's all good.
My pod, it's beginning to cast.
That's true. It's happening. I just ate way too much chicken katsu teriyaki, so I'm just like,
oh, okay, I see. Yeah, okay, I get it.
I'd like to thank the existence of Miss Mizzle for giving me an easy way to title this episode while continuing the
Oh yeah, what are you pulling for this one?
Or there's a Miss Mizzle line that starts with the estate of a fairy, so easy
enough. Wonderful. It's time to talk about a fairy.
It's time to talk about several fairies. That's right.
So
the Washington State Ferries route from Kingston to the one across from Kingston. I think it's Edmonds to Kingston is the one that it goes there. Mm-hmm. I last rode that a few years ago. Edmonds is a lovely little town. It's a little car dependent. There's the big car ferries. Actually, across the way in Kingston is even more charming. They've got this great historic downtown. There's an antique store. There's an ice cream shop. If you're ever looking for like a fun little day trip that's not too far from Seattle, go ahead and head up to Edmonds, take that ferry over to Kingston, and just putter around for a while. That's my review. Yeah. You can get pretty close on the one line now with the extension up to Leadwood.
I feel like I feel like now, like, this bit we're doing, I'm under-contributing because despite having lived in Boston for 5 years at this point, I have not taken a single one of the, like, dozen-plus, like, Mass Bay ferries.
You should get out
and
there!
And now I need to go take all of them.
You don't even need to pay for a whale-watching expedition because you can often... I think in Boston as well, but here in Seattle. Last time I took a ferry, I was over going to Bremerton on the Washington State Ferries, and I saw a fin whale, and that was awesome.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah,
and I've seen a pod of orcas on the ferry as well, out to the San Juan Islands.
That is amazing.
That was really cool because they stopped the ferry entirely because the orcas are very. I'm just knocking all sorts of shit over here.
You have to cut the engines around them.
Yes, exactly. They're super endangered and they're very sensitive to sound.
Yeah.
And so they cut the engines and a staff comes on the radio to explain what's going on and also where to look to see them.
Yeah,
that was very cool.
I mean, that's not every day for even people who ride the ferry every day, I assume.
Yeah, and I saw I think a gray whale with Valerie on the ferry in Vancouver too. So
Awesome.
this is. I'm just going to talk about riding ferries all episode. Yeah. Fuck you, listener.
I don't know what sort of marine life you'd get riding the ferries around Mass Bay. Possibly whales.
Possibly. You guys got seals and sea lions out there on that side, right?
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, we got them.
Yeah, you can see
we
those.
We also have dolphins. Actually, we also have dolphins. So possibly.
Nice. We allegedly have dolphins in the Sound.
I've never seen one. Further north than the Pacific dolphins.
Yeah.
I am looking
Okay,
at the MBTA ferry route map, and it seems like half of these just go to Logan Airport. So actually, maybe I have fewer to check off than I thought.
that'd be a fun way to get to the airport, though. Go
It
by
would be a
water.
fun way to get to the
We should
airport if you wanted to wait a little while.
we should do an airport ferry
Absolutely.
here in Washington. I'd feel like you might actually
Oh,
they
you
were
don't
gonna
have
run.
one?
Well, no, because the airport's I think a little too inland for that to make sense.
Oh, do you have an inland airport? I'm actually kind of surprised. I would have figured Seattle would have a seafront airport like Logan.
No, yeah, it's on a plot of land. It's kind of boxed in on all sides, which is becoming an issue for people who think that airports need to expand and we shouldn't be killing air travel as much as possible. But no, it's actually
Yeah.
it's SeaTac Airport, right? It's Seattle Tacoma International Airport,
Yeah.
but it's in the city
Oh,
of
so it's all in.
yes, and so it's in the city of SeaTac, which is named
They built
after
a city around the airport?
yes, and it is basically like the
Oh.
prototypical city around the airport. I would say its economy is probably like 50% parking taxes.
50% parking taxes, 25% rent a car,
Yep.
25% like duty-free imports.
Yep, exactly. They get to squat. It's like that town in Chicago that had the crazy corrupt mayor. I don't remember what the name of this was. There's an episode of No Gods, No
I don't
Mayors
remember
about
either.
it. But that's a great podcast, by the way. I'm gonna just quick shout out to No Gods, No Mayors. That's a really
Podcast.
funny one.
Some of this is making into the final episode. We got to plug something.
Yeah, we're doing all. I'm putting all this in because you know what? So
Okay.
school's out. It's June, right? And so we all know
There's
what
no
the month.
Deltarune.
There's no Deltarune. Deltarune's out. There's no Deltarune happening. This is Substitute Games Month on Survey Program. So as I
We
said in
don't
the
have
Discord,
Deltarune class anymore.
yeah, no Deltarune today. No Deltarune classes in session. So I'm wheeling in the TV on the little roller tray, right, with the VCR in it, and I'm putting the VCR. I'm open palm slamming the VCR into the slot, and what's in the slot for the 2 episodes this month are different games. We're going to talk about some other games, and we're not talking about Ferry Fairy. We're talking about Fairy Fairy, and I was really stressed that I was going to spell one of those wrong.
Farie, or
Yeah.
All you little delinquents are now stuck in the summer school of this podcast episode.
That's right. I'm kicking my feet up on the table, and I'm just going to real talk with
Deltarune's
you
out,
guys.
but you're still here.
That's right. That's right. You're stuck here with me. You're stuck here with me and Nillin. We're gonna talk a little bit about a game that came out this year that I think we both really enjoyed, and it's da-da-da-da-da-da. You already know because you looked at the album cover and you read the episode description. It's Titanium Court by AP Thomson.
It is.
And
Should I do my intro or am I free now? Because I already did one last time.
I mean, you don't need to tell me about your experience with Deltarune again, but you know what? Now you can tell me about your introduction to Titanium Court.
Yeah, I can. I mean, so this game was an instant wish list for me. And the reason it was an instant wish list for me was because shortly after it dropped, I watched the game's initial trailer. And it was not like most game trailers I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's because, despite featuring some footage of the video game in question, it was mostly like a Sweden-era Mountain Goats song about how you shouldn't play the video game because it's bad
Yes.
for your health.
Yes.
Like, really Sweden-era Mountain Goats.
Yeah. That is exactly the description. And so I'll put a point where we start talking about like in-game spoilers. But we'll talk about stuff that you'll encounter in the early game before that. And one of those things,
And
I
this
think
is a spoiler-sensitive game, so I think, like, very upfront warning of if you have any interest in this game, I recommend you go watch that trailer, make some personal decisions in the following minute and a half, and then go play it if you're going to, before you hear us say, like, basically anything.
that's true. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's just open it up to
Not
spoilers.
basically anything, but, like, we might have to kick the spoiler door open very fast.
That's true. Instead of having to dance around it, here's what I'm going to do. Battles in this game take 30 seconds. I'm going to play a 30-second battle track from the song, and during that time, you can decide whether you want to be spoiled or not. Everything that happens from after this song until about 47 minutes covers what happens before you win your first run, and we'll warn you before talking about the end game. so in this game, you have I can just say it outright that you do have, you get the option to skip boss fights by having the game developer play a song for you. Which is again, like you described, it's a very lo-fi Mountain Goats type song. The first one I encountered was about like salmon wanting to fuck.
Yes, I think the musical interludes that you can choose to see instead of a boss fight are always delivered in the same order, and the first one really sets the precedent right off the bat.
Yeah. And
because it is a like 5-minute indie folk ballad about all the Pacific salmon going to go have sex for the first time, and all 100% of them die instantly afterwards.
yeah, exactly. And that was that initially made me think the developer was local to the Northwest because of the importance of salmon out here on the Pacific coast, but actually the developer's a New Yorker from the sort of the New York indie game scene.
That tracks to me.
Yeah.
With other facets of the game, I think.
Yeah, that's true. And so you first encountered it with the trailer. Did you play the demo? Because that's how I got it. There was a free demo.
I did play the demo. I was very excited for Steam Next Fest because there were 2 demos coming I was really invested in. One of them was Titanium Quartz. The other one was, oh goodness, what was the other one? Now I'm not remembering it. I'll figure that out later. I was excited for 2 demos. Clearly, Titanium Quartz left more of an impression on me. That was an incredible, like, hour and a half worth of game to get fed right up front.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, another demo that I played during Steam Next Fest is the secret subject of the next episode during Substitute Games Month. So look forward to that. And I'll tell you, and then I'll bleep it out. It's what we're covering.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Which I'm going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I assume you're going to have an incredible amount to say about that.
Yes. I'm debating, how #real to get, so I guess we'll see.
Yeah. There's, of all the interlude songs, the one that got me the most was the one called They Become Friends in Season 2, because it sounds exactly like one of the slow songs off of Heretic Pride or Transcendental Youth.
Yeah.
And it's just this indie folk is not a styling I've seen video games go for much.
It's true.
And not to say that's the only styling this game approaches, because its visuals have almost nothing to do with that, and instead it comes out looking like a piece of like business software for the Commodore 64.
Yeah, it's got a very, as someone who grew up with like a OG like 1-bit display Macintosh, it's got a little bit of that vibe too. It's a little bit like Return of the Obra Dinn, but with the splash. It's got 6 colors instead. So there's a lot of early PC
VGA adjacent.
Yes.
Color setup going on.
Yeah.
The game has a beautiful color palette that is instantly recognizable. I care a lot about those sorts of things. I'm both a visual artist and a pixel artist, and my goodness, the color palette in Titanium Core is perfect.
Yeah, it's really distinctive. You can immediately tell when you're looking at Titanium Core.
Yeah.
And it gives all the little inset pixels quite a bit. I think the thing that really struck me about the musical interlude was it was sort of the first hint, and let's put a pin in this and talk about it later. It was sort of the first hint that this game is interested in getting you to do things other than playing the game.
Yes.
It's the first sign that, like, mechanically, it's like, okay, you don't need to like grind through the boss if you don't want to. You can just watch the dev sing a song to you instead. And I think that's a very interesting thing. And I want to talk about that a little bit more, but we'll
have a point later where we'll really dig into that, I assume.
But let's zoom out and talk a little bit about what is Titanium Court.
So, like, first off thing I would say right up front about what is Titanium Court is Titanium Court is a game that won't tell you what it is, no matter what. Its first trailer refuses to tell you what it is, and instead warns you that you shouldn't play it. The trailer song includes lines such as, "It's known to the state of California to cause vivid hallucinations and daydreams while driving." And 9 out of 10 doctors recommend doing anything other than wishlisting this game on Steam.
Yeah.
It then, in order to announce, I think, the release date, the game got a second trailer which was a minute and 20 seconds of the developer AP Thomson saying, they told me I have to make a new trailer because I didn't explain what the game was in this one. So let me explain what the game is, and I've only got 90 seconds. And then fast forward through what is probably like a 5-minute long explanation of the game so fast you can't hear it.
So it's a bit of a troll job, really, is, sort
Very
of.
much so. Yeah. But it's a game that doesn't want you to be told what it is, and here we are doing it anyway.
It's true. But it's also like, it's a bit of a troll job, but it's not like there isn't crunchy gameplay there to be had. So yes. I played 43 hours of this game, which was
oh goodness, what do I have on Steam right now? Think I have 30.2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a bit more. It's more than I was expecting for sure.
What is Titanium Court? Another thing Titanium Court is award winning. Titanium Court, I think, like, before even its official release date, based on an incomplete copy, took home the IGF Seamus McNally Grand Prize.
Huh. All right.
Which has previously gone to games like Inscription and Outer Wilds and aforementioned Return of the Obra Dinn.
All right. These are all games that I like.
Yeah, and also, I think this was actually AP Thompson's second year winning the prize in a row due to being part of the team for last year's winner.
Which was?
It was a game called Consume Me. I have not played it. You may have heard about it.
Yeah, no, I've never heard it before. I've never heard of it before at all.
Yeah, and that was not a solo project like this is, or solo as much as any game is a solo project, but yeah, and Consume Me also won some other like gaming awards, something called the Nuovo Award. I haven't heard of that one as much. I've heard of the IGF Grand Prize before.
Yeah.
But apparently games like Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy and Blaseball had won that previously. Uh-huh. So this is an award-winning game from an award-winning dev.
I gotta grab my friend Muse.
Heard about that.
I gotta grab my friend Muse and do a baseball episode at some point. That would be a fun thing.
We'll get to baseball. Oh, we'll get to baseball.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
That
so
kicked in.
Yes, so it's true. So that's the start, right? That's the start of you get this sort of, it's wrapped up in an enigma. It doesn't really want to explain itself, but you start playing and it's a play. Where
it tells you what it is as soon as you are actually able to open it up, which is it tells you that you are watching a play.
Yes, and
you're not playing a video game; you're watching a play,
and you are stepping in as the surprise understudy in the role of the queen. And the main character has been replaced by an understudy, and the audience groans. Yes.
But it's maybe okay that you're an understudy because the play's also not done being written yet, even though they're performing it right now.
Yes. And so you are the queen of a court of fairies.
The play that isn't done being written yet is, I think, the first thing I saw that gave me an inkling that maybe this was a game that could eventually be talked about in relation to Undertale and Deltarune.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said this was Deltarune off month, but there are a ton of parallels between Undertale and Deltarune that I want to get to because this absolutely, and when we talk in game, this is one of the post Undertale games of all time for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think the very first thing is that you're playing sort of what initially feels like a self-insert protagonist, right? Like
but is maybe slowly revealed to not quite be, and in a different way than Undertale does it.
Yeah.
I think maybe I have to put a pin in that too, because that's when we start getting into deep comparisons, because I had a whole interesting thing about that.
And one thing I did want to flag that I found interesting was I feel like most games that have like sort of a player insert, a character that is either a player insert or is supposed to feel like a player insert, either they do basically three things, which is either they have them be never referred to with gendered pronouns at all. They refer to them as they, them consistently, or they're just he, him. Right. And so or they
have an option sometimes.
That's true. Also. Or they have an option. And so to have
does none of them.
Yes. Titanium Court, you are the queen of the fairies. You are referred to as she, her the entire game.
You are ostensibly a woman. You are she, her for the whole game. Even more so, and we'll get back to this. You are she-heard throughout the entire game,
That's
which I think
true.
is a beautiful and brave move.
That's true. It is very interesting. And that really struck me because even as you can already tell from how we're talking about it in relation to UTDR, even as the player and queen, the player and the queen character dichotomy begins to be exposed, the player is still referred to as she, her.
Yeah,
Which, yeah, that was one of the first things that struck me as super interesting and super unusual.
I love it.
Yes, I do too. And that I think it's a really, really interesting choice that is not what a lot of people would do.
Yeah. I hope there are people out there who were made uncomfortable by that, but liked the game enough to finish it anyway.
Yeah, I'd be interested
Like
in
one of these,
hearing.
like, I hope the art worked, right?
Yes. Well, and one of the things that one of the very early things you learn about trying to find a way out is that the only way to leave the court of the fairies is to change. Um,
Which is, yeah, interesting within that alignment, isn't it?
it sure is, isn't it? I'm sorry to always look. Sometimes you have a niche of your criticism, and look. Occasionally, you just gotta get right. You gotta just settle right into that little niche that you're in, and just be like, "This is my fastball at the corner of the zone."
You gotta own that this is your pitch and you're good at it.
Yeah, I'm just right. Like, I'm sorry, I'm pumping heaters right into my comfort zone, and you can take it or you can swing at it all you want. But you're listening to my fucking podcast, and I'm going to tell you about how this game is about the trans feminine experience.
Yes, absolutely. We need to get more into the experience. So you're told you're watching a play. You're told that you are one of the actors in this play. You are sort of fed in, and I think actually pivotally here, we've already said it. We've already said a couple things that allude to this. This game is making heavy allusion to Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah,
Allusion
absolutely.
so heavy that the opening of the sort of in-universe play includes, in the modern vernacular, but very Shakespearean disclaimer about its own contents of profanity.
Yes,
And so I love that that's happening right off the bat.
yes, and
And then you're the sort of setup, right?
yeah, and just to pause for a second, I love Midsummer Night's Dream. I think it's a fantastic
It's
play.
amazing.
I think that and so getting to hang out with Puck for a little while, Robin Goodfellow is great. Because Puck
Yeah.
is one of my favorite Shakespeare characters.
Dude, love him. That's our guy Puck.
Yeah.
Your guy Puck is in this game. If you weren't motivated to go play it yet, let this be your last off ramp.
Yes.
You are told that you were wandering in the woods one day when reality exploded around you. And it exploded around you in a way that sort of bejeweled the world. It's basically the first interactive thing you do in this game is the sort of plane of forest around you shatters into a bunch of sliding tiles, and you start playing Bejeweled. You start playing swap any two tiles, match lines of three. It's just Bejeweled, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And after a moment of engaging with this as a sort of like warm up to the gameplay, you find quote unquote the court. And you are welcomed inside, a feast is held, and you regale a strange man sitting next to you with your experience with the war, which is a sort of inexplicable state of conflict that washes over this place in a very impermanent manner, before he reveals to you that his name is Puck, and that you're in a court of the fairies. It's called the Titanium Court, and more so, you're its queen. Now, of course, you were not filled in on this, but Puck assures you, and then in like my first funny little framing trick the game does, he goes, well, look at where you're sitting at this feast, and the frame widens just a little bit, and you realize the little corner you set yourself in is actually the head of the entire table.
Yeah. That's
And immediately the game
very,
sort of
very good
launches
little
into
framing
it.
trick.
Yeah. With like a wonderful little strummy guitar melody, the game launches headlong into its shtick.
Yeah, and what's interesting is basically this entire game's soundtrack is recorded by AP Thomson on their guitar.
almost just guitar and some decent processing.
I think it might all be guitar, yeah, because I think the credits say
There
that
was
it's
occasional percussion of some kind.
I think that might be.
I think that actually might have just been slapping the guitar.
I know. I was about to say. I think it might be slapping the guitar.
Very, very folk music.
Yes.
I could believe it based on the way it sounds.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is fantastic. Go get the soundtrack.
Yeah, my one...
Even if you don't play the game, I don't care. Get the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's like my one feeling about the game that as I was playing it a bunch, to try to dissect it a little bit, is like, you start fast-forwarding through battles, and then it's like, but I'm fast-forwarding through the battle theme, and I love listening to the battle theme.
And it's when you fast-forward, it speeds the music up like you're running it on a record player too fast. And so you stop doing it as often because you want to enjoy the tunes.
And yes, and there were many times where I was fast-forwarding through battles while playing the game, and Valerie was like, what the fuck are you doing over there? What the fuck are you listening to?
Yeah, listening to, like, Nightcore Woody Guthrie over here. And, I feel like that actually probably brings us to Undertale Deltarune Parallel number 1. What is up with how this sort of thing always happens when a musician makes a video game with heavy meta-narrative elements?
That's a good question.
I have 3 or 4 nickels in my hand right now, Kane.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
I don't know.
We have an answer for what's up with that, but there's something up with that.
I think it's interesting because I think if you are a like capital G gamer and you play games and games are your method of expression and that's like your silo, I think you have a different perspective than somebody who is a multimedia artist and has approaches with multiple mediums where games aren't necessarily the only way that you know how to express yourself. And you also saw that with like Immortality, right, where it's a blend of game and filmmaking in a really dynamic and interesting way. And so I think that having that multimedia perspective is really interesting because it does bring, it brings that in. And, I was thinking about this actually, and I'm going to go on a little digression just to talk about what I've been into this week, which was I went and saw Kane Parsons' Backrooms.
Oh boy, I have not seen Backrooms, but I would love to talk about Backrooms a little.
Yeah, so I want to talk about it a little bit because I feel like it's actually a bit of a fairy story for the modern age, right? Where one of...
Is the no-clip wall the modern fairy circle?
Exactly, it basically is, right? And also Parsons' other really, really good YouTube series, The Oldest View, is very much about that. Like, it's very much more about like, a place out in nature where you take the wrong turn, and you end up in the court of this basically, this like nature giant type figure, and it's very fey.
I love you've stumbled into the world of the fairies narrative. I just love it. I love there's all the rules you have to follow that no one's gonna tell you, or something really, really bad will happen. I love it all. It's great stuff. And that, and like that's the thing also is that many of Parsons' characters, especially in his web series works, are sort of progress very instantly to bargaining when they encounter something that they don't understand or some sort of hostile entity. Their first instinct is to say, I'm just leaving, I'm not trying to cause any trouble. It's like the first thing that they come to. But it's also like it's that update of like, the original idea behind the Fae is these unknowable wild places that sprawl on forever, right? Yeah. And we don't have those anymore. Those have been foreclosed upon by sprawl, by mapping, right? By buildings with backrooms in them.
Yes, exactly. And so the modern understanding of the place that you could be lost in forever, where no one can tread, where there's rules that you don't understand, is an endless office building, an endless commercial space, a dead mall, right? Like these are the ruins that surround us now that we don't understand.
It is interesting that liminality is back so strongly as a concept, and you do have to think about how maybe for most of human history, the liminal place was probably outside, not inside.
Yep, exactly. And now, that's the thing is we've inverted that relationship, and I think that's what Parsons, that's what the basically the whole thrust of Parsons' whole visual output is that we've inverted that relationship where now where like we've problematized the indoor space. And, I think it's especially interesting
Yes.
because he's a young person who has grown up now in the ruins of the great, suburban sprawl boom of the 80s through 2000s, right? Like, when he was
Yeah.
born in 2006, that was already like that was already dead. That was already retreating,
Born in
right? Like,
2006. Are you serious?
yes, I'm serious. He's
Oh my
yes.
goodness, I'm so old. Oh no.
It's really bad. I know. Let's try to
Oh
stay on.
no.
Let's try to stay with it.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Get away. Hand off the stove.
yes. But the reason why I brought that up is both because of that modern fairy story feeling, right? And also because he's like, like Thompson is to games, he's not just a film director. He didn't go to
A
film school.
multimedia expert.
Exactly. He's done modeling. He's interested in games. He's scored his own film. He does the music for the film, and for the web
Oh,
series.
really? Okay.
Yes.
That's
This
impressive.
guy's a real talent. I've been crazy high on his stuff after finding it recently. And so I just wanted to shout that out. It's just something I was thinking about in terms of the Fae, but also in terms of how people who are multimedia artists approach their mediums differently than folks who are in one thing. Like David Lynch is a sculptor and a painter and a photographer, right?
Yeah.
And that informs his sensibilities in a lot of ways beyond just traditionally structured films. And it's the exact same way with games. So that is definitely a similarity, right? Where, both Titanium Court and Undertale were games made by people whose most of their prior experience wasn't in game dev, or game dev was like part of a balanced breakfast of creative influence.
Yeah. And interestingly, with like to sort of segue back off of that, Titanium Court itself maybe has a little bit to say about what the modern realm of the Fae would look like in a very similar vein, which
Yeah.
is that as you settle into this game's routine, which is quickly established to be a run-based roguelike, you start spending time in the Titanium Court, which presents itself to you as a strange sort of like microcosm of a person's normal life.
Yeah.
The people in the court have sort of absurdist, like gonzo iterations of very normal experiences that are sort of unique to modern existence.
Yeah.
Very early on, you walk down a hallway, which all the movement in this game is done by picking directions, like you're in what is it,
Like
Zork?
Yeah. It's very
Yeah.
it's like a point and click adventure game, sort of.
Like a Myst. I compared a certain thing in this game to Myst that we'll mention shortly.
Yeah.
But one of the first things you can do is happen upon two people in a hallway, providing sort of strange, absurdist critique on a painting hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
I think the first one is it's like a rock star, sort of Hendrix-esque smashing a guitar.
Yeah.
Yes. And the two fairies are standing in front of it, arguing he must be expressing his powerful disdain for rock and roll by destroying its like signature instrument.
Yeah.
And you mention to them the idea that he probably has another guitar off stage. Rockers are known to do this sort of thing. And because they can't see that extra guitar, because they're only seeing the frame of the painting, they call that sort of analysis ridiculous coming from you.
Yep.
And that sets a beautiful precedent for the way this game treats your human perspective on your own world versus the way the fairies see things.
Yep. And one of the things that really tickled me as somebody who does, in my time where I'm not talking to you, dear listener, I do some urban planning stuff. The one of the things that really tickled me was the fact that cars are a myth to the fairies. Like they think that.
Oh, let's just talk about this now.
I want to talk about cars a little bit because it's like because you encounter all these road signs all the time, and they think that cars are basically like the big scary bear in the woods. Like there are these things that
you
humans.
You get this early on when you're eating breakfast, and you hear two people arguing about human perspectives on quote-unquote vehicular theology. At which point you rapidly pick up on the idea that similar to the way we might think of fairies in our day-to-day lives, the fairies think that cars are a sort of mystical religious device that humans made up to justify their sort of surroundings.
Yeah.
Like, the cars aren't real. Cars are a sort of combination boogeyman, god, mythical beast that humans are currently fixated on.
Yeah, and and they're the
And you
boogeyman, and
you
so all of
cannot
our
disabuse them of this notion, and they are a little patronizing to you about your belief system.
yeah.
And they call it your belief system, and they're a little patronizing to you about it. And I think it's very funny.
And the idea is that the road signs are like these spells that we use to contain this, these mythical cars that we fear.
Yeah, there's the first road sign you run into is the one that just says dead end.
Yeah.
And the fairies go, "Oh, I know this one. This is a memento mori."
Yeah.
And then the second one you run into is a no U-turn sign. And they won't believe you when you say this has to do with cars.
Yeah.
And they instead talk about how it's a common human sigil, meaning that there is a point of no return or no turning back.
Yep.
And when you tell them it's a road sign, it's for street instructions, it's for cars, they laugh at you, and one of my favorite early lines of the game gets said, which is a fairy, I'm only paraphrasing here, a fairy goes, "And I assume in the modern human iteration of the Orpheus myth, he has to guide an F-150 back from Hades."
That feels right. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And I saw that, I was like, okay, but a little bit maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that I've been thinking about that a lot in terms of like whenever you're actually like showing real life in a modern film, it's like if you're actually showing. I was thinking about this a lot when I was watching Kinds of Kindness, because Kinds of Kindness is full of like modern myths, including one sort many like sort of fairy tale elements, but they're set in like modern day America with modern day American paranoia, and everybody drives giant fucking cars the whole time, and it was so clearly like like an outsider to America's like little funny like, let's actually show people driving the stupid fucking cars Americans drive all the time.
Yeah,
because it's very arresting. They're so big now.
Target for that. Cars are a beautiful target for this because cars do take up such a massive chunk of life at this point that I do think it's one of those things where it's easy to get at the player for taking the existence of cars for granted.
Yeah.
The game is very funny. The game is very funny. I love the game's writing. I could see a contingent of people who would dismiss this as quote-unquote millennial humor, but I think the game is obscenely funny.
And what of it? We did a whole episode about how that's good, so whatever.
I don't want to like millennial mog you and Valerie, but I think we've got another major contender here for extremely millennial video game.
Absolutely. And that's our thesis as well. Is like if you like if you're playing Deltarune, like congrats, you're playing the most millennial game of all time, even though mostly Zoomers play it. It's and. Actually, okay, but you know what? I don't know when else I'm going to fit this in, so I wanted to mention this because we talked about, Thomson, like, being a musician, being like I was listening to an interview with AP Thomson on Post Games Podcast prior to this, and it's actually a Patreon-only episode, so congrats to Post Games Podcast. I'll link you in the description, and also you got $5 from me to prepare for this episode. But in it, Thomson reveals that they have played Oblivion and Morrowind, but not Skyrim.
That's amazing.
They haven't played Skyrim.
That's awesome.
That's fucking crazy, right? But like, you have to be like not. I feel like that's the biggest like bit of like tradition, like non-traditional gamer cred imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
I asked her to go to the Green Day concert. She said she never heard of them. But they did mention in the interview of like one of the things that influenced it, like from Oblivion or Morrowind, is like the faction quests, like in Oblivion, right, where you have to like sort of pick between different factions to like advance with.
Yeah.
And one of the things in the game with that was the discourse between comfort and strife. And so in a lot of roguelites like this game is, you do have that sort of meta progression element where over time, you can either, you get buffs or challenges, and this is presented textually in the game as a discussion between two characters, right? And so rather than just being
it's also sort of turned into a diegetic device via the thermostat.
Yes, it's true. Turn it up, turn it down.
You don't pick difficulty modifiers, you turn the thermostat up, so it's a little nicer in here.
Yes, exactly. So, is it nice and cool? Are you turning the heat up and sweating? And Strife is represented by a woman who's working out and is super intense.
Yeah, the guy enjoying popcorn and the woman with like the like towel around her shoulders, who you find early in the game, late at night in the kitchen, arguing effectively the exact classic, dumb, endless, cyclical internet argument about video game difficulty.
Yeah.
One of those like meta nods that I don't know was like meant to contribute to the greater meta narrative so much as it is there because you've already set the meta precedent, and so you can do things like have a running joke about the game difficulty discourse in your video game.
Yeah, and so basically everything in the game is diegetic.
Yes, everything. As a matter of fact, the UI is diegetic as you learn when you're tutorialized on the gameplay. Should we offer an actual like comprehensive description of the basic gameplay of this game?
It's like Candy Crush, and then at the end, the board that you Candy Crushed turns into a tower defense auto battler.
Yes, it turns into like a little like auto battler RTS tower defense game. You make your matches of different types of terrain, you collect resources off of them, and then at the end you summon your army of little fairies to go do things like chop down trees so you get more wood, or go attack enemies.
Sorry, I started imagining like an NYPD cop playing playing the Candy Crush part of Titanium Court while like leaning on a subway platform, and then the enemies start appearing and they drop their phone and start shooting it.
Yeah, that's about what it is. There's something about the idea behind the gameplay of this game where if you said it to somebody, they'd think you were talking about like one of those slop Kingdom Clash mobile games.
Yes, it is super interesting to see a game, like a serious narrative game. Well, it's silly, but you know what I mean. Like a arty narrative game, take its descent, like come down the tree from what is widely considered by serious games people to be a throwaway genre of crappy mobile game.
I can't tell whether this is a dig or a beautifully elevated sort of artistic call on roguelikes themselves and what they've begun to turn into, because I think it would be easy to say that the run-based roguelite might be turning into the new sort of mobile game Bejeweled, Candy Crush.
It's true. And so
pure
it blends those two.
And ease of creation, sort of. Like, there is a lot of design templates that are more stealable than usual.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for what it's worth, this game opts not to steal a lot of them and creates something that's actually frustratingly deep. I got mad at how interesting the base gameplay of the game is after a while because of everything else the game had to do. Not in a way that made me not like it, but in a way that made me feel like a joke was being played on me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little player hostile, not like mega so. I think it's more player playful. I don't know, it's player trickstery.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got the basic elements. You've got the run-based structure. You choose from one of 3 future battlefields to have to do your whole business on. You collect a deck of cards that are your units you can spawn in. But then a lot of other things go real sideways in terms of relationship to classical roguelites. That's the gameplay. When you're tutorialized on this, the fairies refuse to tell you how to use the game interface in front of you.
Yeah.
And after a second, a little tooltip box appears. And it says, "Hi, I'm your tooltip. I'm going to explain to you how all of this works." You see, these fairies' religion prevents them from acknowledging the user interface, so they can't tell you what to do.
Yeah.
I, however, am a secular tooltip, and I fear no god. Here's how you check how much money you have. Yeah. Which I I absolutely love their religion prevents them from acknowledging the user interface.
Yeah.
Because it feels like something that may or may not also be true of like the battle screen in Undertale and Deltarune.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Where, like Undertale is like sort of an attempt to say, what if we took all the conventions of a JRPG and we just like sort of flatly asked, what would a world that actually worked this way look like?
But
And
where everyone thought it was normal to go into a little battle screen and throw attacks at each other.
yes, exactly.
And they know they're doing it. And
yes.
it's interesting the way this game cuts to that really quickly by just telling you their religion forbids them from talking about the UI you're clicking on. They know it's there.
And
the game has... This is sort of the first layer of this game's metagame, is that as established right off the bat by you being told you're watching a play, Titanium Court kind of has a show within a show aspect to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where all the characters in Titanium Court are explicitly playing roles, but also they don't really step out of those roles in a way you can immediately observe because the rest of their lives are also encompassed by the stage already.
Yeah.
It's a little The Muppet Show is really what it is.
Yeah. And
where like everyone there knows they're putting on a production, but also the production and their existence as an actor are both part of the show.
Yes, exactly. And it starts to
and
get...
Our good guy Puck is a bit of a Kermit the Frog in this case.
This is true. It's true. And
because he's fully aware he's trying to make good TV out of a situation he has no control over.
But you realize that he's been avoiding you as well. Like he's kind of very he's very reticent around you. And as
very nice to you introducing you that first night, and then he starts running away when you enter the same room as him.
Yep. And so why that is, you start to find out, and this is now when we're really pivoting to the end game. So,
here's the big spoiler warning for what happens after you win your first run of the game.
Yeah. And so pull that ripcord. Get the fuck out if you
play Titanium Court. My goodness.
Go play Titanium Court. Stop fucking stop listening if you want to be if you don't want to be spoiled on this. But there's a problem. And it turns out that this is not a game that just sort of wants you to mindlessly keep progressing and beating it, because something starts going wrong.
Something starts going very wrong, and you get an inkling of it only after you've achieved victory once and been sent to a weird version of the court in the middle of the night. Everyone's asleep. There are a couple sort of vectors into little meta progression dealies going on there. And then you find Puck in the Titanium Court's chapel. The Titanium Court's chapel is one of my favorite rooms in the game because it is a sort of stained glass, rows of pews church, and up at the top instead of a pulpit is a classic, 60s style television set showing a test pattern.
Yep.
And Puck is standing up there, and you walk up to him and he informs you of a part of his deal. Because these are fairies, and every fairy has sort of a deal. This is classic to the idea of fairies.
Yeah.
Is that there's sort of a strange rule they abide by that defines them. You meet a guy very early on who tells you that his deal is that he can only answer questions you haven't asked him.
Yeah.
And then you make the mistake of asking him what you want to know, and he says, "Oh, well, sorry, you didn't hear my deal soon enough. I can't tell you that."
Yeah.
And Puck tells you that part of his deal is that, drunk on the court's victory, here in the middle of the night, he will answer one question from you completely earnestly.
Yeah.
And you're given, at the start, a long list of things to ask him about. And as soon as you ask him one, he gives you an answer. Oftentimes you're disappointed because your own character doesn't know the rules of the Fae well enough to word a question well and gets a sort of, bad genie wish misinterpretation that is allowed to fly. But as soon as you do, the court sort of explodes into nothingness, and then you wake up the next morning and do it all over again.
Yep.
And so this quickly becomes the kind of roguelike where you want to finish as many runs as possible to get to the real advancing meat of the game.
Yep.
And then you see the problems start to appear.
Yes.
And the problem is that people are going stale. You want to tell everyone what going stale means?
Yeah, and so, as in everything is diegetic in this game, right? And when you're talking to a character in a narrative game, right? When you're talking to a character in an RPG or whatever, and you talk to them again after you've expended all their written dialogue, they just say the same thing again, right?
They just stand there repeating their last sentence whenever you press A on them,
And what this game does is it has that be the real thing that's actually happening to them. And so when they go stale, they only keep repeating the last thing that they said, and it freaks everybody the fuck out. And it's called going stale.
They are stuck standing there. They can only repeat that last line. They don't seem capable of any meaningful agency. They are sort of almost upsettingly brain dead.
Yep.
And not only you are rendered very uncomfortable with this, but all the other fairies are viscerally uncomfortable with this.
Yeah.
And you're told it's something that does not happen very often. And everyone in the court does treat you like the queen, and so they're very gratifying to you. They're very polite, and they tell you they're sorry you had to see this. This sort of thing doesn't happen very often. It was just bad timing. Don't worry about it. And then it starts happening more. And it starts happening directly in proportion with you interfacing with various little advanceable side objectives and meta progression things outside of the game.
Yep.
And you start to learn things about magic because of this. And what you learn is that no fairy is willing to explain to you what magic is.
Yep.
They not even a religious exemption, they just can't. They can't explain it, and the game can't really explain it either, but it can show you. And, oh goodness, magic's gonna be a whole thing to get into.
Yeah, I think maybe we just gotta skip. I think we gotta just gloss over magic a little bit here.
Yeah, magic in Titanium Court is sort of your own ability to parse meaning from symbols.
Yeah.
And
also, it's like following. It's a little bit of like just not following a direction or a rule is magic. Like if you see a stop sign and you don't stop, you've done magic. You've undone the spell, but the stop sign is doing magic to you by telling you to stop.
Does magic to you when you see the stop sign and you go to stop your car. The stop sign has magically affected you. Is the idea these fairies hold. And so, of course, when they see a stop sign, not knowing about cars, they assume that they have to stop, and so they all just freeze perfectly still.
Yep.
Until you tell them that a stop sign actually only requires you to stop at the intersection and wait until it's clear before you can cross, at which point they become okay again. And you're told you've lifted a curse.
Yeah, exactly.
And this sort of rule of symbols extends beyond just things like a stop sign and into even sort of narrative tropes. As like symbols you derive meaning from. It's very interesting stuff.
And so to sort of to move to the next, because to sort of get to the deep end game here, right?
Let's go into it.
As you start to move through the game, you collect keys, which are sort of actual keys from your past. Or from your character's past, or supposedly from your character's past.
Your like memories your character has associated with those keys, and with each one, you start to realize the wedge between you and your player insert is kind of growing.
Yep. But it's like keys to a storage unit, keys to an old apartment, keys to a childhood home, that sort of thing. And if you collect enough, you can leave. And Puck approaches you basically with a deal. Like, Puck will help you collect these keys if you stop speaking to him, stop asking him questions, getting him closer to going stale, right? And promise to leave as soon as possible. So don't 100% the game. Don't finish it. Don't be a completionist. Save as many members of the court from going stale as possible by getting the fuck out as quickly as you can. So basically in that middle end game, there's basically 3 endings, right? One is you get out before even finding any of this out. And if you do that,
just close the video game.
Yeah. Well, okay. Right. That's true. So that's true. You can close the video game at any point. There's 3 endings where you get the credits to roll, right? And the first one is you collect enough keys and you get out before even finding out about people going stale or any of the broader meta narrative, and then you get a song making fun of. Yeah, you get a song making fun of speedrunners as the credit song, which is funny.
Yes.
Because you
The
really,
game gets-
yeah, you basically have to be trying for that. And then the modal one, the middle one is you get out before, finishing everything, before lifting all the curses, before
damage.
Yes, you've done some damage, but you get out and then the game is over and you're done. And the only thing you can do is quit. And I think that's a really really interesting thing. And there's also, I think, a really big analog with the Undertale pacifist ending, where you get the pacifist ending and you open it back up, and Flowey says, just let Frisk live their life. Stop playing this game. Like, just go away. Like,
your character winds up at a bus stop waiting for the bus to leave, and if you ever open your save file again, it's unusable because you just see your character standing at that bus stop.
Yep, exactly.
With no button.
And the only exception to that is you can look in the journal for what is supposedly the future of your character, which is a whole other thing I don't want to fully get into at the Clockwork Monastery. But one of the funny bits in this game is right at the start you get Chapter 1, and Chapter 1 is basically the entire game. Chapter 1 is like the entire game. Yes, there's two. But there's Chapter 2 is this strange postscript in the journal of your character's future in the strange collectivist kind of nightmarish Clockwork Monastery that you can only access there. And what that actually is, and again, I'm going to reference the post games interview with Thomson here. There was originally going to be much more. You're going to be many more different types of courts and many more chapters in the game, and it just got rescoped. And that's like the last surviving shred of the original scope of the game there. But it's still funny to like show Chapter 1 and have Chapter 1 be basically the whole narrative content of the game.
It's very funny the way you find Chapter 2, because you get the journal, which is mostly just the game's little menu that lets you rewatch cutscenes you've already seen.
Yep.
Except if you look in there, you'll see one cutscene listed that you never watched, and if you click on it, it just bumps you straight to a Chapter 2 card.
Yeah.
It's one of the funniest tricks the game pulls.
It's very funny. And I would say, but anyway, that's the overview, right? And then if you do stick around and I didn't do this on my save, but if you do stick around and you do 100% it and you get everything, then things get progressively just worse and worse and bleaker until you're...
As someone who did it, just to have the perspective, I did go and do it, and it is truly and comprehensively miserable how it ends.
It's basically the No Mercy route.
And then after you've 100%ed the game and ruined everything, you get the credits, and the song that plays in that case is like a song parodying completionism called "Gotta Catch 'Em All."
Yeah.
Just one last little fuck you,
Yeah. and so here's the thing. I couldn't do it. I went and edited my save after leaving to like go back in and continue it, and then I was like, no, fuck this. I'm just going to leave again.
You saw it get a little worse and you felt real bad.
Yeah, and I'm like, fuck it,
really
I'm going to leave.
bad.
And here's what I'm going to say. And this is the first thing that I'm going to say that's even a little bit negative to this game, and I want you to understand the context of I played it for like 40 hours, right? And so I played it for a really long time, and around that time where I had the choice about whether to leave or keep going was around when it stopped being fun. And
it's well timed. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's perfect. I think that's super healthy, actually. And I think it's probably the intended experience, right? Because I just was like, this gameplay, I enjoyed it. It's not hugely my thing to keep going, and I don't want to do it until it feels old or like I'm just doing it to do homework for the show. And so I left, and I made my peace with it, and I was content with it, and perhaps that's how it changed me. Perhaps that's how, perhaps that's what it did. I was content with it, and I left. And but also, that made me think about, we did an episode about the Halloween hack, and especially the supplementary document. And again, I always feel like I need to apologize to Toby when I talk about the Halloween hack, because it's like, imagine if people were talking about shit I made when I was a teenager, like all the time.
Yeah.
There's one extant thing on the internet that is tied to my name that I made when I was a teenager, and it's SCP-072, and it's bad. but yes, we did. Yeah, we did an episode on the Halloween hack, and it was episode 12. And one of the supplementary document things was like I think a really cogent fact that really any choice in a narrative game is like on rails, right? It's just you exploring what the developer made, and the only real choice, the only actual like choice where you have agency as a player in how to approach a narrative game is whether you play it or not. Right? Like that's the real greatest choice of all time. And if
this is like the big thing that made me want to talk about this on this show with you.
Yeah.
Actually, if I can sort of pull this into a full-on tangent, is Undertale specifically, when it came out, due mostly to the existence of the evil route, introduced a strange new straw man into discussions about video games. This was not a game that really existed in the same way when everyone talks about the like, what is it, the queer indie RPG Maker game about depression, and there's actually only like 2 of those in the whole world, but everyone thinks there's a million for no reason because it's just sort of a new straw man idea.
Yeah.
This straw man idea is the game that tells you not to play it.
Yeah.
There is no grounding for this in like 2015 when Undertale comes out, but people start talking about it, and it becomes this odd point of discourse that ends up centered heavily around Undertale and even still carries over a little bit into Deltarune.
Yeah.
And why I find that incredible is because someone did it. Someone made the game that tells you not to play it.
Yeah.
From the minute the trailer announcing the game comes out, the game is telling you not to play it. On the Steam page, underneath 2 actual real reviews from various games like websites, Puck himself has sort of gastered his way out of the game to leave a review telling you that you would surely have more fun playing something else, and please don't play Titanium Court.
Yes. In the same way that the No Mercy route in Undertale or the weird route in Deltarune are like about these tendencies that you have to play the game. I gotta play it. I have to see it all. I have to see everything. And about the toxic nature of that relationship with tearing art apart, I think, Titanium Court is very much having that same conversation.
And it's having it really loud and really front and center because... Sort of, to do some more contrasting here, unlike Undertale, there is no good route, really.
The good route is you stop playing.
Your existence as a player in this world is fundamentally consumptive. You are sort of eating the magical parts of this game, and as soon as a character runs out of dialogue that the developer has written, you have sort of absorbed everything meaningful out of them, and they go stale.
Yeah.
And even entire game mechanics.
Yeah.
And there is no way to make that bet. There's no way to play the game that does not do this. And so there is no way to be a good person and get out of this dynamic. There is only the way the game works and the way you being the player of the game works. And because of that, Titanium Court can spend most of its runtime twisting the kind of knife that Undertale had to wait until they were really sure you were trying to get on the No Mercy route to start twisting.
And I think it's interesting too, because to get a little personal for a second, it's like I've been trying to make sure, and one of the reasons why I've been dipping around to talk about other games and talk about movies and stuff from time to time is I'm really trying to make sure I'm not over tearing apart Deltarune, despite doing 28 now episodes of radio about it, right?
Yeah.
And so, this obviously hit for me as something where it's like I felt very, very good about being able to put it down and walk away from it content. And I feel a little conflicted now about my relationship to Deltarune because I love it, and I'm worried I might love it to death, right?
You can do that. You can love Titanium Court to death.
Yeah, exactly.
You can make no assumption of the motivation behind you consuming the game.
Yeah, exactly.
But it does tell you that you're doing it, and it makes it a problem no matter what you want.
Exactly.
And it's in this very different way, because Undertale is pulling from an idea of prior games that is very much like the JRPG you played on a Super Nintendo emulator when you were 10.
Yeah.
On your computer in the basement,
Yeah.
And so it has a lot to say about the way things like grinding start to cause you to objectify entities within a game.
Yep.
And then Titanium Court, on the other hand, is a very modern, sort of mobile game-inspired roguelike
Yeah.
that mostly gets you for the way you will just keep playing the game past when you've had your fill.
Yeah.
And so they have very different approaches to this idea of a consumptive experience with games, especially because Undertale treats it as optional, which I find interesting. I think these are both equally interesting stances because I don't think either one of them is flat out globally right about how playing a video game feels or works. But both of them can hit, and even both of them can hit for the same person, which I find impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a bit where you fight one of the bosses. The bosses in this game are interesting because they are all they're all broadly allegorical, and one of the bosses, I mean, they're real boss fights, you have to fight them and all that, but they're still broadly allegorical, and one of them is just a big mirror. And the whole time you're fighting it, everyone in the court is telling you that you absolutely cannot look at the mirror.
Yeah.
And there's a button that just lets you look at the mirror anyway, of course.
Yeah.
And if you do, you get trapped in the mirror. And then you have to play as the mirror, who can only look at another enemy court and make the same kind of units it's making.
Yeah.
And you have to play your run all the way back up to that boss fight, where you have to fight the titanium court that you created during that run and win in order to escape the mirror.
Yeah.
And as you're doing this, you're quote-unquote self-reflecting, because that's all you can do when you're stuck in a mirror. And through the course of your self-reflecting, you are effectively told outright the thing that is going on here, which is that you are a force for sort of critical consumption, and you will tear this game apart until there is nothing left.
Absolutely.
And it's a really creepy moment, because when you get back to fight the Titanium Court, you look out from the mirror and onto the reflection of you that is running the Titanium Court, and what you see is ostensibly yourself, the player, whose every mention is accompanied by this creepy teeth-grinding noise, and who is treated as terrifying to look at for every single character in the game.
Yep.
And in that moment, I think I saw the thing, which is that this is doing that same thing that Undertale, Evil Root, and probably Deltarune just as a whole will end up doing, in terms of treating your positive and negative impulses as a player as sort of strings to pull on for people in the game to react to.
Yeah.
And I think this was what I got the mirror event pretty early on. You can do a lot of the things in this game out of order, and it quickly sort of shattered the illusion of the player insert for me. And so I had an experience with the game where I spent a lot of time aware of this, but I kept playing, not because I didn't understand that I couldn't put the game down whenever I wanted, but because I felt like I needed to see, I didn't just need to hear what was wrong, I needed some form of closure. And unlike all the sort of straw man arguments about how bad it would be if a game didn't want you to play it, the game went and acknowledged that.
Yeah.
In one of my favorite cutscenes in the entire game, where you and the friends you've made in Titanium Court stay up late at night in your room drinking potions that make you love baseball and getting sort of a type of high off of them where you just really, really like baseball.
That's me every day, baby.
Yeah. I love the potion that makes you really like baseball. Yeah. There's a great bit with that, but and one of the characters, as you talk about this horrible problem that there is this sort of outside this universe player entity staring down at your within the game character that won't stop ruining everything by experiencing it, that one of your friends says, maybe the problem is she's cursed too? And in that moment, it kind of all snapped into place for me.
Yep.
That, like, magic in this game is you identifying sort of symbols and thematic lines and finishing them. It's like completing the sentences, filling in the blanks with primes you've sort of been given by your life experiences, by society, and you are primed to receive closure and then close the book.
Yeah.
right? And in that way, you are cursed. Your curse is that you need closure to stop playing the game.
Yeah.
And it works because it calls you on this, but not in a way that like tells you, and you shouldn't be doing that. Someone just says, maybe you are suffering from an affliction of your being that you need an ending to stop playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great way to do a deliberately unsatisfying ending. And I've loved those for my basically my whole life. I've loved deliberately unsatisfying endings. I mean, I grew up reading A Series of Unfortunate Events. Which ends in this really sort of ambiguous, strange way that doesn't exactly answer the questions that you had and leaves a bunch of story open-ended and is kind of about the beautiful nature of an open-ended story or something that you won't ever fully dissect. And I think that set me just on a Lemony Snicket set me on a lifelong path of really loving that. And also, a lot of people take that personally. They think it's an indictment of them when they encounter something like that, or it's an indictment of their desire for closure. And
it's why the straw man exists in the first place, right?
Exactly. And I just hope that people can realize that what that actually is a story having a lot of confidence in you, right? And feeling like it doesn't have to hold your hand or explain everything or provide you that perfect closure, because it's actually leaving that knot, that knot still tied up in a way where it's up to you to figure out how you feel about it and what to do next.
And just because Titanium Court tells you you're predictable doesn't mean it doesn't have confidence in you. It actually has more confidence in you to tell you you're predictable and be right.
Yep.
And especially, the game has, of course, one of those classic hooks to oppose this idea, right? Which is that it has all sorts of little breadcrumb secret goodies that make you keep wanting to do runs just to learn little tidbits.
Yep.
All of Puck's questions, some hidden back rooms you can only get into by doing meta progression goals over a bunch of runs. And one of them is just a basic question from Puck that you can't ask until you're a good ways into the game, which is, what is the court? At which point Puck tells you that the Titanium Court itself is a trap for the player. Titanium Court is sort of identified that it has hooked you as a story by this point, and as long as it never gives you an ending, you're stuck. They've got you. The hook brings you back, right?
Yeah.
And they're right. The incredible confidence to say that, because I know if they were wrong, it would tank the game for me, right? But I think by the point I was when I got to ask that question, there was no way it wasn't going to be true.
Yeah.
And so the game posits you as subject to the same interchange of sort of mimetic ideas that lets the story present itself in the first place.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of confidence. That takes a lot of narrative confidence, I think, to pull off.
Confidence, and not a lot of video games play with that. Even Undertale doesn't necessarily play with that as much. If there is one thing Undertale and Titanium Court both really play with, though, it is their antagonists. We have to talk about the enemy.
We do, and I think that is gonna wrap it up, because we'll have
to call it by talking about the enemy.
Yeah.
But I've been dying to talk about the enemy all day.
Yeah.
The enemy that's his name, for the record, in Titanium Court. You have a foe. He's color-coded to match all the guys who aren't your guys on the field. He's called the enemy. You don't learn this right away. At first, he's identified to you only as a foreign dignitary visiting the Titanium Court. And he goes on a really long, rambling conversation about nihilism that your character tries to pay attention to, except the potion of liking baseball you drank an hour ago suddenly kicks in, and you're distracted thinking about curveballs.
Yep.
And he sort of rambles his way out into the hallways of your court and randomly appears time and time again to bother you with strange philosophical discussions.
Yep.
And finally, one time you enter the chapel, and he's sitting in front of the TV watching a basketball game. I don't know that basketball really classes as the polar opposite of baseball, but I do think it's interesting that he doesn't like the same sport as everyone else.
Yeah.
Because everyone else loves baseball, whether due to potions or otherwise. And you look at the score counter, and you realize that the game has been running for 10 straight hours, and the score is like 3,000 to 2,890. And all the players are exhausted and can barely walk, and he says, oh, what am I doing? I extended this basketball game forever just to see what would happen. Maybe if they play long enough, we'll understand the true meaning of basketball.
Yes,
I haven't
it's that
formally introduced myself. I'm your enemy. And he
that
makes the creepiest smile I've ever seen.
yes, it's very scary. And I will also say, it reminds me, I don't know whether consciously or not, of an SCP by BB Aztec, SCP-1733, which
I
is
don't remember that one off the top of my head.
it's an endless basketball game, where the
Oh,
players
fantastic.
are similarly collapsing from. It's from
That
2012.
might be deliberate.
It's from
That
around.
might
It's
be
from
deliberate.
when I was writing SCPs and from when I was involved in the SCP Foundation, and so that I immediately clocked it as like that's the same idea, right? It's a basketball game that has been extended through malicious means.
And he really gets you because he says he like gets you immediately because after he makes that creepy smile, like a real chill went up my spine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very real. And, like the guy he's like a because the game has a very limited palette, unlike most other people who sort of have like skin using the blue tone of the game, he is entirely red, and he's dressed like Mussolini a little bit.
That's true.
And he has just I don't know how to describe the way he looks other than he looks like a sort of stereotypical fascist dictator, but like the clean-cut kind, not the like caricatured negatively kind.
Yeah.
And he gives you this horrible grin, and he says, "You're wondering why you never considered me a threat before. It's simple. I just kept rambling on about nonsense, and you never suspected me."
Yeah.
And then he proceeds to not do anything to you and not leave your court. He just hangs around because he's not your enemy in the sense that he wants to like punch you in the face. He's your enemy because he is your like political opponent in the theater of recurring pointless war that the court exists in.
Yeah.
And so he's fine to just hang around your library and talk to you.
Yeah.
He does eventually do worse things. There's a second moment that really ups his horrible factor. The first time you try to leave, you can get 4 keys, and you can try and open the gate and walk right out of the court, and instead he will stop you, and he'll take all your keys, and he'll run away.
It's true.
And he'll do a sort of like power word sleep on you, like classic fairy move, right?
Yeah.
And it'll work, and it's a horrible violation of your bodily autonomy. And you wake up on the grass later, and you've got to go get 4 more keys, which is really annoying. There's another one a few runs later where you go to take a shower. You can take a shower in this game. There's a shower in your bedroom, and if you go take a shower, you can do another little match 3 minigame while having shower thoughts, which range from thematic ruminations on the game you're playing to tips for the combat system.
Yeah.
And one time you can try and go in your shower, and instead he's in there.
Very scary.
It's just
very alarming.
hiding in your shower.
Yeah.
And he's making that horrible smile, and he tells you that because he surprised you by being in your shower, he wins, and he gets a point on the scoreboard for this.
Yeah.
And it's another, like, horrible violation of your personal space and bodily autonomy. He's just not a great guy.
Yeah.
Very unsettling, and to sort of bring this back around to one more little comparison before we kill this here, he is very similar to Flowey from Undertale.
That's true, yeah.
He is kind of doing the same thing for the exact same reasons. Both of them are antagonists whose only real goal is to keep opposing you so you keep playing the game. Flowey, of course, like, from the angle of sort of not wanting the one interesting part of this universe, which is you playing it to end. And the enemy to sort of keep the trap, the, like, eternal curse on you of no closure, no ending of the Titanium Court working, because he wants to ruin everything.
Yeah.
And both of them have these motivations, and both of them are externalizations of the player's own negative impulses towards the games they're in. Because Flowey sort of represents that nostalgic pull that makes you want to keep playing a game over and over again long after it's, like, had the impact on you.
Yeah.
Because something, like, in you sort of needs it to keep mattering, even when it can't. Which is very fitting for, like, a RPG you played as a kid type experience.
Absolutely.
Whereas in Titanium Court, the enemy very much represents sort of like a never stop gambling, sunk cost fallacy approach to demanding closure.
Yeah.
Which is very fitting for where this game pulls its gameplay from. Especially like roguelikes are often sort of compared to and increasingly have themed themselves more and more around gambling.
Or the mobile games that it's also a takeoff, where
Yes.
those
Yeah.
are like explicitly like basically insert,
Dark
the
patterny
modern equivalent of the
expertise.
insert coin.
He is he's Mr. Dark Patterns
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even interestingly, both of them are also revealed to have a deeper prior relationship with what you once thought of as a player insert. With like the experience with like Frisk and Kara and Azriel, and then in Titanium Court, I don't know if you found this. Are you okay with getting yourself spoiled on something?
Yeah, of course. I'm not going to play again.
Did
I
you
walked away.
Yeah. Did you find Puck's back room, his dressing room?
Yes, I did.
Did you get in there?
Yes, I think.
Did
There's
you
a list of curses in there.
No, the
Or-
library has the list
Oh,
of
that's the
curses.
list of curses, right? No, sorry, I don't think I got into Puck's dressing room.
Yeah. So you have to go there once. The way you go there is you keep walking through hallways in the court and you see street signs and you have to disobey the street signs to get to where his room is.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny. He's set the car road directions up like wards against you.
Yeah.
And when you finally get to the room with his dressing room, there's a no parking sign on the door. And so in keeping with what's been established, if you sit there for 30 seconds, the door just opens because you parked, thus disobeying it.
Yeah.
And if you go in there, Puck has his own version of the player's to-do list. And it
Interesting.
includes things such as him having checked off his objective to hide all your keys. And him having checked off a to-do list item that says cancel the sequel, which I think is referring to chapter 2 and the
Yeah.
sort of lost other chapters of the game. There's another one which says, tell the king to stop this nightmare. And the king is written in the same red that the enemy's name is written in, which I think makes it safe to assume that that's sort of the Oberon of this situation.
Yeah. But you
Which
never
would
see
be
him.
par for the course in terms of how antagonistic Oberon is to Titania, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So you think the enemy is Oberon?
He kind of is Oberon,
Yeah, it
and
makes
you
sense.
you're an understudy for Titania.
Yeah, it's true. You're stepping into the
Right.
role of Titania.
Another one that's really interesting, and just to sort of seal this off with just a little more trans femme reading. In Puck's dressing room, you find a wig on a desk that looks exactly like Robin, another character in the game's hair.
Yeah.
And you see a note in the notebook that says, acquire costumes for unfilled roles.
And so
of
and you
course,
never see
Puck's
Puck and Robin in
name
the
is
same place.
And Puck's name is Robin Goodfellow.
Yeah.
And so, of course, what you realize is that the woman you've become best friends with in the court this whole time while you thought Puck was begrudgingly avoiding you was probably him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's been cross-dressing and being your best friend. So that's really great.
Yeah,
That's
is really
fantastic.
great.
I
That
love
is really great.
And in the end, the game sort of acknowledges that your curses, you need an ending, you need closure. And when you go to finish the game, you get to stand at the gate, confronted by the enemy one last time. And based on who you've made friends with and what sort of weird side quests you've finished, you get a lot of different options for how you can do your one little conclusive sweep that defeats him. And all of them are, because of course, how else would you defeat someone with magic in a world where magic is like the execution of symbols and imagery? You pick one of the threads you've already gotten going in the game, and it just sort of concludes by getting him out of your way, no matter what you pick.
Yep, it just works.
It just works. And then your character walks out of the court, stands there, and casts a spell. And the spell your character casts is just pulling up the end card.
Yep.
And that's all it takes. Your curse is broken and you're free.
It worked for me.
It
on
worked
the
for
second
me.
try.
It was fantastic. Yeah. Oh, did you look back?
I did. Yeah, I looked back. I looked back yep, I looked back like Orpheus. I knew, I was like, it's probably going to happen, but I'm going to do it anyway.
And you get sucked right back in, and you have
Yep,
to
and
win again. and do it
everyone's
one
just
more
sort of
time.
awkward and embarrassed. Like, okay, well,
Yes, you like beat a sort of shameful retreat out the door a night later, having already said goodbye to everyone. It's
Yep.
very clever. I like Puck a lot. He's sort of the Sans of the game, and I really like how he's handled. he's really stressed by everything you're doing all the time, and it's very funny.
It's great. All right, so I think that covers all my notes. I know we could go on for longer, but I get physically.
I could go forever, but I think we covered everything.
I get physically anxious when my podcasts go longer than an hour, except when Lucretia had me in a rules card trance.
That was different. That was
different. That was different. I was strapped to a chair for that one.
Yeah, Clockwork Orange style.
Yes, basically. All right.
This down if you need, but thank you.
Yes, it's Survey Program. We're gonna be talking about Mystery Game in 2 weeks. Look forward to that one. I think it might be a bit of a discourse bomb. All right. Thanks so much for coming on, Nillin. Titanium Court. The link's in the description. The music in this episode is from the soundtrack. Check out the link in the description to the podcast interview with AP Thomson I was talking about as well. I believe there's a free one and a paid one for spoiler talk. Yes, that's it, I think. You got anything to plug?
I do not have anything to plug, except Titanium Court.
Yep, alright. Mission accomplished. See you in the outro.
Yeah, I hope so.
So yeah, thanks for listening to Substitute Games Month, even though we got undercut by the dastardly release of Deltarune Chapter 5 upcoming. We'll talk a little bit more about what we know about Chapter 5 on the next episode in 2 weeks. As I said in the intro, then July 1st will be the first episode that covers Chapter 5. In the week between the release and July 1st, you can join the Discord. We're going to have a spoiler policy. We're going to have a special spoilers-only channel. We will ban you if you talk about spoilers outside the channel, unless you were making an innocent mistake, in which case we'll just gently correct you. I would say, in general, if you really, really care about not being spoiled, I would probably not check the channel for, not check the Discord for the few days after release, just in case somebody slips up. Please, 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 I'm begging you, subscribe on YouTube. We are getting very, very close to 1,000 subscribers, and that is super exciting. Even if you don't listen to the show on YouTube, you can hit that subscribe button at the link in the description, and you can support the show for $5 a month at groupashrike.net and get access to our bonus episodes. And we've got 7 bonus episodes and counting. Most recently, I talked to Lucretia, who you might remember from the Rules Card and Yick episodes. Lucretia has watched Money Plane every single day of May for the last few years, and in that episode, I try to find out why, and also watch the movie myself. So check that one out if you haven't listened yet. Thanks so much for your support. Thanks for the show. Look forward to our next Substitute Games episode and Chapter 5 coming out.
Shrike Amalgamated General Productions GmbH